Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. It's always inspiring to me to come to this conference to see so many school board members dedicating themselves to improving your leadership skills, to see you educating yourselves on ways to improve student learning. I want to commend you for your dedication to public service on behalf of America's school children. It's appropriate, I think, that we're meeting here in Boston, because it was here, after all, that long ago others dedicated themselves to public service and to the cause of American independence. Theirs was a form of advocacy work with world-changing consequences. The establishment of a new system of government and, of course, the founding of a great nation. They championed a cause that led to a better future for all of us. More than 2 centuries later, another public servant from this state, then presidential candidate John F. Kennedy, asked the nation to dedicate itself to a cause. He called it the New Frontier. JFK's legacy, his optimism and determination, I think should resonate with all of us. Rather than be intimidated by the many challenges that were facing America in 1960, he didn't shrink from confronting those challenges and the task of overcoming them. Instead, he said, quote, "We stand on the edge of a new frontier, the frontier of unknown opportunities and perils, the frontier of unfilled hopes." Those words resonate to me. It was a call to action. Don't accept the status quo. Don't assume that today's problems are unassailable. There can be a brighter tomorrow if we have the strength and dedication to make it happen. The new frontier was that better tomorrow if we seized it. And I think we as advocates for public education should convince the nation that our schools are the new frontier. Our schools have challenges, but we're constantly improving them. Some students still don't receive the education they should. But folks, we are educating more children today than ever to a higher level of achievement. Now think about this. We've raised academic standards, expecting more from students than from ever before, and yet we're graduating more students than at any time in history. This is a little bit like moving the goalpost uprights closer together and then starting to kick more field goals. What you and other education leaders have done is remarkable. Thanks to you, public education offers our children and our nation a brighter future. And we need to get that message out. It has to be heard. Public education is too important an issue to be left on the sidelines of today's political debate. Let's face it, education as an issue hasn't garnered much attention from today's presidential candidates, who are sometimes more interested in winning votes through fear than through inspiration. Now I admit there are many other weighty issues to be addressed in this political debate. Terrorism, immigration, the economy, national security, all of these are worthy of debate and discussion. But as you well know, the security of our nation depends on an educated citizenry. If we want a brighter future for America, education must be at the front and center of today's political debate. So who's better than NSBA working in partnership with you, your state associations, to put public education in the public eye? I think the nation will be receptive. I think the time is right. After all, we have a powerful springboard for our advocacy work, the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. This landmark legislation passed in Congress in December with strong bipartisan support. It is one of the most significant legislative victories for public education that we've seen in years, and NSBA played a key role in shaping one of the law's most important provisions. Now, we have many reasons to cheer ESSA. For one, it brings to an end the flawed policies of No Child Left Behind. That law NCLB's unrealistic goals, damaging sanctions, and wrong-headed mandates. But what's tremendously important about ESSA is that it restores balance to education policymaking. It creates what I consider to be a new federalism with a much more impactful role for local school boards. It shifts decision-making back to state and local education leaders where it belongs. And it gives you a stronger voice in creating education policy. This didn't happen by accident. Many members of Congress and organizations had a hand in creating ESSA. But it was NSBA that championed the provision to reverse the federal government's intrusion into local decision-making. It was the tireless work of our advocacy team, working in concert with your state school boards association and our advocacy group, the Federal Relations Network, who all helped to shape this policy shift. We can look back to 2013, when NSBA introduced the Local School Board Governance and Flexibility Act that called for more state and local autonomy over education policy and sought to limit the federal intrusion into decisions that needed to be made at the school board table. This was a turning point in creating a dramatic shift in federal education policy. And the language of that legislative proposal was later incorporated into ESSA. So in other words, the voice of school boards was not only heard, it was reflected verbatim in ESSA. So I'm proud to say that NSBA's fingerprints are all over that new law. That's a game changer. If you have any doubts that your opinion carried weight, I just want you to watch this video and hear for yourselves what members of Congress have to say about your role in public education.
School boards.
Local school board members.
I ran for the school board and got elected.
Here on Capitol Hill, we know that you are on the forefront, and we count on you.
Don't sit back and say, oh, No Child Left Behind is gone, so we can just relax. You know, we can't afford to do that when it comes to education of our children. We have to stay engaged.
So those are former school board members serving in Congress. Folks, think about where we are right now. NSBA is making a difference. The voice of school boards is being heard, including in the courts. This past year, our association filed 10 friend of the court briefs, each one designed to help judges understand how their rulings will affect local school boards. Your voice is being heard by the public as well. Our Stand Up for Public Schools campaign continues to sway public opinion about public education. And it reminds our citizens that public schools are one of the nation's great success stories. NSBA is leading the effort to promote the achievements of public schools and to counter our critics. We're still spreading that message. This year, we've built stronger ties with the news media. We're presenting NSBA as an impartial, accurate source of information on education issues, and it's had an impact. Over the past year, NSBA has been mentioned thousands of times, literally, in the media, including such major outlets as the Washington Post, the New York Times, Education Week, NPR, CNN, C-SPAN, and many others. And as a result, we've educated millions of people on a range of issues related to public education. And we've shared policy solutions that we think support your work as school board members. Now, I'm not trying to oversell NSBA's influence. There certainly are many voices demanding the public's attention and many special interest groups that Congress can't ignore. And the future of public education isn't entirely rosy. Our schools are more successful than ever, but we know that some are struggling. And then you add into that budget cuts and efforts to divert tax dollars to vouchers and other programs that rob school of essential funding. Those are constant threats. But who else is better positioned or more qualified to champion public education than NSBA and the 90,000 school board members around this country. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you already know, but we can't forget. We are not a special interest group. You're elected officials. Each one of you has a special role in your community. You're public officials. I've been working with school boards for 36 years, and I've never met a board member who used that position to advocate for their own well-being. Your work is about what's best for school children, and that's a high calling and a big responsibility. This is our time to act. Now, we won an important victory with ESSA. Education's now on the mind of members of Congress. It's a foundation that we can build on. ESSA is a platform for build momentum for more sound education policymaking, to better champion the cause of public education. This is the time to convince our nation that education is the most important issue that demands our attention. So let's move the debate forward. Let's move it forward where you have a positive message to share with the nation, the public, the media, and our state and federal policymakers. I encourage each one of you to become active in our Federal Relations Network and to help us with our grassroots advocacy work. And I also encourage you to come to Washington in June 12th through the 14th, for our Advocacy Institute. On the podium this year will be the new Secretary of Education, John King, Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, Congressman Todd Rokita from Indiana, and CNN's Jeffrey Toobin. So it's a great opportunity to gain a deeper understanding about the new law and your responsibility under it. You'll learn more about educating the public for public education, and you can take what you learn to Capitol Hill because Congress will be in session that week. So we need you to come and meet with your member of Congress and to champion our message. The meeting is a chance also, by the way, to participate in our first ever Equity Symposium, where we'll focus attention on the needs of some of the most vulnerable and disadvantaged children. Folks, I want you to look around you. Everyone here today has committed themselves to making their community's public schools the best they can be. You're among individuals who have dedicated themselves to putting the time and effort in to make a difference for public education. In this room, think about this, is a powerful and influential group of America's leaders. You helped to shape federal education policy over the past year. So we need to inspire a nation that public education is the new frontier and that it's critical to ensuring a bright and hopeful future for our nation. We have work to do. It's time to insist that our political candidates talk about public education. They need to clearly state where they stand. And like us, they need to commit to themselves to ensuring that every child, everywhere, regardless of zip code, has access to a great public education. Thank you very much. Thank you.